1. The show about nothing that changed everything. Who would have thought that a show about nothing could become everything to sitcom fans? By spotlighting the absurdities of mundane, everyday life, Seinfeld ditched the moral lessons and dramatic resolutions other sitcoms loved, and somehow made us laugh harder than ever. 2. Love 'em or hate 'em, the main characters are unapologetically flawed. Forget the typical lovable sitcom crew. The gang in Seinfeld, selfish, petty, and hilariously self-absorbed, broke every mold. Strangely enough, it's those imperfections that made audiences love them even more. 3. No hugging, no learning. The golden rule of Seinfeld. Unlike other sitcoms that try to tug at your heartstrings, Seinfeld had one strict rule: no hugs, no life lessons. Nobody grows, nobody changes, and that's exactly why we can't stop watching. 4. It almost got canceled, can you believe it? In its early days, Seinfeld struggled with low ratings and almost got the axe. Fast forward a few years, and it became one of the most celebrated TV shows ever. Talk about turning nothing into something. 5. The Soup Nazis' fame spilled over into real life. "No soup for you" became an instant cultural catchphrase. The Soup Nazi, inspired by a real New York vendor, saw his business boom after the episode aired, even though the character was far from flattering. Irony never tasted so good. 6. The contest won an Emmy without ever saying what it was about. Only Seinfeld could make an entire episode about, well, without ever mentioning it outright. The contest was a masterclass in clever writing, proving that subtle humor can still be laugh-out-loud hilarious. 7. Elaine almost didn't exist. Can you imagine? Elaine Benes, one of TV's most iconic female characters, wasn't in the pilot. She was added later after feedback suggested the show needed a strong female presence. And boy, did she deliver. The characters are based on real people. Yes, even Kramer. Believe it or not, the eccentric Kramer is inspired by Larry David's real-life neighbor. George. He's Larry David in disguise. The line between real life and absurdity has never been blurrier or funnier. And 9. George Costanza, the cartoonish everyman we relate to. Sure, George is a walking disaster, but his job struggles and constant scheming hit a little too close to home. Behind the exaggerated antics is a character who's just as stressed out about life as the rest of us. 10. Throw out the sitcom playbook. Seinfeld rejected it all. Forget love triangles and feel-good endings. Seinfeld focused on the tiny, bizarre events of daily life, like waiting for a table or losing your car in a parking garage, and somehow made them unforgettable. 11. Jerry Seinfeld quit while the show was on top. Most shows keep going until they run out of steam, but Jerry Seinfeld insisted on ending after 9 seasons. The result? A legacy untarnished by decline and fans forever wanting more. 12. The finale held the characters accountable, and fans were torn. The controversial finale put Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer on trial for their selfishness, making them answer for a decade's worth of bad behavior. Love it or hate it, the ending stayed true to the show's unapologetic tone. 13. Yada yada became part of everyday language. Who knew yada 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 would go from TV dialogue to a cultural shorthand for skipping over the boring details? It's one of the most quoted and enduring phrases the show gave us. 14. Larry David was hiding in plain sight. Co-creator Larry David didn't just work behind the scenes. He lent his voice to several minor characters, including George Steinbrenner and the memorable marine biologist Heckler. Talk about a stealthy cameo. 15. Comedy gold from doing absolutely nothing. Episodes like the Chinese restaurant or the parking garage prove that you don't need big plots to make big laughs. The magic of Seinfeld lay in making the most boring scenarios outrageously funny. 16. Kramer's iconic slide, a total accident. Michael Richards' signature sliding entrance wasn't planned. It happened by chance during a rehearsal. That happy accident became one of Kramer's most memorable quirks. 17. Tackling taboo topics without moralizing. From masturbation to same-sex relationships, Seinfeld pushed boundaries without ever preaching. The humor came from the characters' reactions, making sensitive topics feel approachable and hilarious. 18. Newman was never meant to be Jerry's arch nemesis. Originally a minor character, Newman's petty rivalry with Jerry became one of the show's highlights. He's the ultimate love-to-hate character, always there to stir the pot. 19. Syndication made it even bigger. While Seinfeld was a hit during its original run, it became a juggernaut in syndication. The non-linear episodes were perfect for rewatching, helping the show reach an even wider audience. 20. Jerry and George's friendship is refreshingly messy. Jerry and George aren't your typical sitcom best friends. They insult, sabotage, and frustrate each other constantly, but somehow their dynamic feels more authentic and way funnier than the usual TV bromance.